I was horrified at what they did to Marty.
Attorney Michael Manning is talking about this video of Ernest Marty Atencio as he struggles with officers inside the 4th Avenue jail.
It looked like an absolute brutal assault on Marty for no apparent reason.
Atencio was arrested for assault by Phoenix police on December 15th. Officers say he became combative as he was being booked into jail. He was eventually tased and put in a safe cell before he stopped breathing. But Manning says this video proves Atencio was never violent and shouldn't have been taken to the ground.
He didn't have any combative behavior. And Arpaio said when they first announced this incident that they had to do this to Marty because he was combative. Clearly, he was never combative.
Atencio refused to sit down multiple times, then crossed his arms, refusing to listen to an officer's commands. That's when a Phoenix police officer grabbed him, and Manning says that should never have happened. Then MCSO's detention officers took over. Atencio struggles with them and is taken into a safe cell. In that safe cell, Manning says a detention officer makes 3 forceful motions towards Atencio's head before Atencio stopped moving. He was then left in a safe cell for 9 minutes before deputies came in to check on him.
It was astonishing and utterly inhumane that they didn't care for him after they beat him up.
Manning says toxicology results will prove Atencio wasn't on drugs or alcohol. He leaves behind 3 sons and a mom and dad.
And to see their son die in front of their very eyes, it has devastated this family. They can't even speak.
Hello everyone. Today is Monday, January 2nd, 2012, and this is Darko reporting from his safe cell. My website is ggnonline.com, and ddarko2012 is my YouTube channel. Okay, I have this first article up. U.S. civilians are now helping decide who to kill with military drones. That's right. President Obama's enormous expansion of the U.S. drone program may be pushing too fast for military staffing to keep up. Says here, David S. Cloud of the LA Times reports that the military is now forced to rely on a string of civilian contractors placed at all levels along the kill chain. These are the people who analyze incoming drone video and decide when to fire Hellfire missiles. The practice is not new. According to Cloud, an American civilian played a central role in the Predator attack that accidentally killed 15 Afghans in 2010, information that surprised the investigating Army officer. So I'm just going to put this out there. My little 2 cents is what I see coming down the road, i.e., replacing humans with robots and children, possibly. I see that as in video games where children actually think they're playing a video game and they're actually firing and killing people with these drones. Also in robots, the ultimate goal here is to phase out the human element. So if they could do that, they would have done it already. They could just blame it on the machines, right? That's a whole philosophical field that hasn't even been covered yet. But it doesn't really matter. Just like your rights that were washed away with a stroke of a pen, it doesn't really matter. There's no really debate about it. It just goes forward. The agenda keeps moving forward, and all you can do is just try to keep your sanity and all this. It says here, and try to be nonviolent, right? Because if you're violent, you play into what they want, and then even when you're nonviolent, you'll see. You saw what happened to that one individual in the cell. So, unaccountable killing drones, killing machines. The true cost of U.S. drones. Officials often portray the global expansion of deadly drone strikes as an unequivocal success, and they're talking about, of course, Pakistan. Well, right now, the people can't stand us. I mean, they may not have liked us, but didn't hate us before. Now they can't not stand us because of those drone strikes. And here we have in Yemen, for instance, the CIA and the military's Joint Special Ops Command pursue the same adversary with nearly identical aircraft, but they alternate taking the lead on strikes to exploit their separate authorities, and they may maintain separate kill lists that overlap but don't match. Wow, I keep seeing these kill chains. I hope I'm not in that on that kill list or in that kill chain. Maybe like I said before, barbecuing in my backyard and boom, you're gone. We just took out a suspected terrorist, right? Because you don't even have to actually do anything. You just have to be suspected. But it goes on here, it says CIA and military strikes this fall killed 3 U.S. citizens, 2 of whom were suspected al-Qaeda operatives. There you go. And it goes in there, it says that these drones, the administration says, has been very successful at basically carrying out strikes against terrorists. And the biggest example is what? Is Somalia. I mean, I just covered that in the last video that al-Shabaab, they're actually like moving around and stuff like that. They're actually withdrawing from Mogadishu. So those drones are working. They wreak havoc. It says here in the countries where the drone system is most active, Pakistan and Yemen, relations with local governments and communities are awful, and perceptions of the United States could barely be any worse. So there you go. If you don't believe me, there you go. New York to host Israel's top drone lab. It goes on here, it says on December 19th, New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg announced the establishment of a 2 million square foot engineering and applied science university campus at the heart of New York City. It says the New York-based Cornell University and the Technion, Israel's Institute of Technology, were chosen to oversee the new institution. A $350 million grant from the publicity-shy philanthropist Charles Feeney, supplemented by U.S. $100 million in public money, will fund the construction of the campus. In recent years, Technion has distinguished itself in the field of robotic weapon systems, developing some of the latest aerial drone and unmanned combat vehicle technology. It goes on here, says the unmanned Black Thunder armored bulldozer, the stealth UAV drone. And then also, it says here, it's designed to fly up to 2,900 kilometers without refueling, carry up to 500-kilogram smart bombs equipped with various sensors. And moving down here, the Dragonfly UAV mini drone, tiny remote-controlled drones capable of flying through windows and into homes and buildings for delicate spying operations, are the latest craze. It's like, I want one. I want my own little mini drone. Obama's U-turn on Guantanamo seals fate of lone Briton after 10 years. Shakar Amar can see no hope of release as U.S. President reneges on 2009 pledge. Remember that? I am going to shut down Guantanamo. So the family of the last Briton held Guantanamo Bay, says here, has spoken this weekend of their last decade of torment as President Barack Obama appears set to perform the biggest U-turn of his presidency by keeping the prison open and signing indefinite detention without trial into law. All right. We're going to move on to the economy here. 30 statistics that show that the middle class is dying right in front of our eyes as we enter 2012. Now, just know that this is the plan to kill the middle class. To use the middle class like they did after World War II. And, to basically slowly siphon off that wealth to the military-industrial complex and to the central banks, and now they're done with them. So now they want a two-tier system, rich and poor, just like they used to have it during the serf days, except instead of having a king or a queen, which like I said in earlier videos, that who's responsible for everything. It's the king, it's the queen. You go, you sack them. Now it's what? It's a democracy. Or really, it's a technocracy or scientific dictatorship. So we have like this kind of old two-tier system coming back, serfdom and peasantry, but it's with a little twist, right, of a scientific dictatorship. So you can't do anything. You can't take any action against the people that are responsible for trumping up the wars. We got to go to war, all the taxes and stuff. And the economy, because the economy is not a free market at all, never has been. And so now these people will not be able to do anything. And if you go out and you protest, you will be considered a terrorist. That is the new world order in a nutshell. Today, only 55.3% of all Americans between the ages of 16 and 29 have jobs in the U.S. today. There are 240 million working-age people. Only about 140 million of them are working. It says here only 23% of American companies plan to hire more employees in 2012. Since 2000, the U.S. has lost 10% of its middle-class jobs. In year 2000, there were about 72 million middle-class jobs, and today they're about 65. And moving on here, according to New York Times, approximately 100 million Americans are either living in poverty or in a fretful zone just above it. So not only are 34% of all elderly Americans living in poverty or near poverty, and as prices go up, since 2000, incomes for U.S. households led by someone between the ages of 25 and 34 have fallen by about 12% after you adjust for inflation. And I want to finish up with this. Says here that the total value of household real estate in the U.S. has declined from $22.7 trillion in 2006 to $16.2 trillion today. Most of that wealth has been lost by the middle class. In a survey of more than 3,000 hiring managers and HR firms, 23% said that they plan to add full-time staff next year, which is slightly below the 24% who expressed the same sentiment last year. So most companies don't plan to hire in 2012. Moving on, aging and broke, more lean on family, money crunch reshapes relationships. Quote, I worry about being a burden on my son. More aging Americans are doing something they never would have imagined, turning to families for financial aid. Some are even asking their children for a place to live. The problem has been building as more Americans 55 and older have lost their jobs or run through their savings faster than expected. Then we have 3.5 million homeless and 18.5 million vacant homes in the United States. In the last few days, the U.S. government census figures have revealed that 1 in 2 Americans have fallen into poverty or are struggling to live on low incomes. And we know that the financial hardships faced by our neighbors, colleagues, and others in our communities will be all the more acutely felt over the holiday season. Collapse of the Eurozone will start this year as countries pull out of the single currency. Leading think tank warns Eurozone is 99% likely to break up in the next 10 years. They suggest, it says 2012 will be full of danger and risk, warns Nicolas Sarkozy and Angela Merkel in their New Year messages. A little bit of fear-monger in there. It says here, Eurozone debt fears confirm as Italy auctions off 10-year bonds at unsustainable level. Then we have new Asian Union means the fall of the U.S. dollar. Social services deliberately destruct onto our big brother. 2012 could be a busy year for internet technology law and policy in Canada. It says technology law and policy is notoriously unpredictable, but 2012 promises to be a busy year. You can go through here and check it out. Links will be posted, but it's talking about just one example, the lawful access legislation. It's basically rejecting widespread criticism when it was passed over plans to mandate new surveillance technologies and mandated disclosure of personal information. If you're trying to remember numerous passwords, it can be difficult. It says, but in the future, trawling through possible password combinations could be a distant memory. New smartphones and tablets will allow access at sight of their owner's face or a single touch. Talking about biometrics, of course. But it says here, the Sunday Times reported that the software giants Google and Apple are introducing phones which identify users through sight and touch recognition. And just sweeping people's privacy, those that actually would want to still use passwords. It may not be effective to completely eradicate passwords in favor of facial recognition. It says within days of Google Android facial recognition tool being launched, there were reports online that claimed it could be fooled by holding a photograph of the owner's face up to the device. New report recording everything details how governments can shape the dynamics of dissent. A recent Brookings Institute report has now confirmed what many people have suspected for some time, that the U.S. and virtually every other government in the world has the capability to monitor and record nearly every interaction that occurs within its national borders. Report states within the next few years, an important threshold will be crossed for the first time. It will become technologically and financially feasible for authoritarian governments to record nearly everything that is said or done within their borders. Every phone conversation, electronic message, social media interaction, i.e. Facebook, Twitter, the movements of nearly every person and vehicle. We saw that in Britain. And video from every street corner. Governments with a history of using all these tools at their disposal to track and monitor their citizens will undoubtedly make full use of this capability once it becomes available. Will Google, Amazon, and Facebook black out the net? It says in a growing battle for the future of the web, some of the biggest online sites, Google, Facebook, and other tech stalwarts are considering coordinated blackouts of their sites. Some of the web's most popular destinations based off what? SOPA. So this may be new to some people. It is to me. Identity ecosystems, talking about having credentials. It says here that in case you missed it, Google is now a credentialed provider of trusted identities for the federal government. This means that the NSTIC, National Strategy for Trusted Identities in Cyberspace Framework, is now federally recognized and certified identity providers. U.S. court upholds telecom immunity for surveillance of Americas. This from Reuters, so mainstream. New silent camera apps cause plague of voyeurism in Japan, and some are on sale in the West. 60% rise in illicit photography. More than half of Twitter and Facebook users risk jail every day. More than 2/3 would upload copyrighted material to the internet. says more than half couldn't identify a defamatory statement, and a third were unaware that organizing looting via Facebook and Twitter was illegal. And lastly, teachers warned, you've been warned over Facebook and Twitter use. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.